Live from the J.C. Newman Cigar Studios in the great state of New Hampshire and the Gurkha Cigar Studios in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show with your hosts, Matt Tobacco and Kevin Acuff.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tabacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco. I'm SmokinTabacco.com. And I'm not joined by Kevin Acuff, who is still on hiatus. And I am holding down the fort solo. And, but that's okay. I'm here. It kind of sucks not having Kevin here, though. I don't have my pre-show and my kickoff of the show banter. It's very lonely, I have to say, without the great wizard, who I call because of his long white beard that he has now. And I miss his Dixon flannels. You know, it's sad. I want him to be back soon. Which he should be, but it's not fun without Kevin here. And Mitchell. You know, I miss Mitchell too, who's also on an extended hiatus due to health reasons. But that's you know, my boys are not around right now. It's sad. I miss you guys. I want you to come home. You know, but hey, the show goes on. I'm still here, and I have a guest with me tonight, so I'm not completely alone. I'll give all of my attention to him, and he'll get this whole show for himself, which is great. So, no jabs from Kevin tonight. I guess that's a positive. Although I do miss them. But anyway, without further ado, without making you wait or making my guest wait, I do have with me Anto from JM Tobacco, and I'm going to bring him in. And there he is. Welcome to the show. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Matt. Well, thanks for having me on. We'll make this as fun as possible.
Oh, absolutely. I don't doubt that it's going to be a good time. But the old wise one, and the Acuffs are not around to yell at me for that comment. There's normally, I poke fun. They're older than me, but they don't like it. And him or his wife will yell at me about it. But they're not here. I don't see them in the comments, so freebie for me. But anyway, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. I know that I think you've definitely met with my team at the trade show, although I don't think I have met you yet. So this is exciting because I actually kind of get to know you a little bit better and get to know a little bit more about the brand firsthand. And I know you guys have been around for a little while, but maybe folks may haven't heard of you, and that'll be great for them to hear more about your brand, your company, what you're all about, how long you've been around, etc. All the fun stuff that we're definitely going to get into.
Yep.
And I'm excited for it. So,
yeah, same here.
Before we get too deep into it, let's talk about what we're smoking. Some fine cigars of yours, but let's talk about them for a quick second. And that's brought to you by the number 2guyscigars.com. That's right, the number 2guyscigars.com. Head over there today for an amazing selection of cigars, all the names you know and love, and maybe a few that you haven't heard of that you should give a try. There's an amazing range of products there. Grab some stuff you know, but definitely grab some stuff you don't know. You might find a new regular cigar in your rotation there, only at the number 2guyscigars.com. As our guest, I'll let you go first. What are you smoking with us tonight?
So actually, I'm doing something a little different. The last couple of interviews I've had, I've been smoking the Year of the Dragon because that is what we are pushing this year with our limited edition 500 boxes. But this is the Year of the Dragon blend, which is being added to our core line of cigars. And our core line is the Española Connecticut and the Maduro. And next year at the PCA, we're introducing a Corojo wrapper, which is what you're smoking right now. The Year of the Dragon is a Ecuadorian Corojo wrapper. But this is in a 6x60 double Toro. The Year of the Dragon right now is only available in a 6x52 Toro. So we're adding a new size to all three of our blends, a 6x60 double Toro. And so far it's smoking beautiful. I like the ash. The construction on the cigar is really nice. So I'm excited to share this new size with everybody next year at the show.
I was gonna say I can see the size from here. I don't know, Look, and I'm not trying to like, put you in any kind of light, but I don't know if you have smaller hands or, I mean, I can definitely see the girth on that cigar for me. That's a good size though. I mean, look, there was a time I loved smoking anything over like
It's a good size.
56, 60 ring. Not quite regularly like with 70s, but that 6 by 60. I went through like almost a year of like, man, that was my favorite size, and then all of a sudden, it was kind of just like I'm over it, and you know, it's nothing against the cigars themselves. It's just a size thing. I was kind of like, man, and then I went like small ring gauge for a while. And it's crazy how like that changes. But recently, like I've been seeing some of them, and I'm like, you know what? I have to kind of get back into 60s because it's been a while since I gave them love, and I don't know, maybe they're gonna warm back up to me. So
Yeah,
we'll
it's
see.
not normally what I smoke as well. This isn't what I smoke normally. I like a Toro size, but since 6 by 60, the Gordos, the double Toros have been popular lately. We've been getting asked for this size, so might as well give it a shot on your show.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is definitely the place. This is definitely the place to smoke some fun stuff. That's what we do here at Smokin Tobacco. Now, I am smoking the Year of the Dragon,
Yeah,
which I just lit up so far. Notice a lot of spice and pepper right out of the gate, and then it kind of quickly cools down, and then it's
it
getting into
will.
this nice mellow middle section here, where it gets a little more earthy, and it's nice. It's very nice so far, and I'm excited to see how the rest of it goes. But
Thank you.
no cigar is complete without cutter and lighter, and that's where our friends at SD Dupont come in. That's right, shake up the legacy, SD Dupont, featuring the Gradient Collection from SD Dupont. I have with me two fantastic lighters. I already cut my cigar with my SD Dupont cutter, so sorry. You missed that, but I wanted to get smoking. But you did not miss what I'm lighting with. I have two amazing lighters. This is from the brand new Gradient Collection from SD Dupont. That's right, the Gradient Collection. And I have two beautiful line twos with me here today. This black, yellow, and orange with the black matte finish metal appointments on the lid, the body, and on the flint roller, featuring, as always, that perfect ping, and the beautiful chrome with this light blue, kind of sea blue color, if you will, like with a slight darker blue. It's very clean, very refreshing. Um, Silver appointments, the lid, the body, the flint roller, the perfect ping. Um, these are fantastic lighters. As you guys know, you watch the show every week. SD Dupont, they're with us every week for a reason. They're reliable. But the new Gradient Collection, it's colorful. It's interesting. I'll be honest with you. This one really reminds me of like the German flag with the color scheme, which is kind of cool because I have German ancestry. But it does pop. It really pops. It's cool. I like the black trim on the line too. It's kind of something different. I think there's some people out there who would kind of like that. Check them out today at SD Dupont. Shake up the legacy. Now, having said all that, it's time to talk about JM Tobacco. That's why we're here. That's why you're here. That's what we're all doing here. So, JM Tobacco. So this is a brand that I've slowly becoming more familiar with over the last, I would say, year or two. But I know you guys are no new company. You guys have been around for a while. Tell me a little bit about kind of, when you guys started making cigars, kind of how that came to be. Did you guys have any experience in the tobacco business before? Kind of what's your origin story?
Yeah, we have a cool one actually. Um, my dad is he's an entrepreneur. He's a manufacturer. He's been in the jewelry business his whole life. Coming from Beirut, Lebanon, moves to Michigan, starts his own jewelry factory, jewelry company, and he's been a smoker of cigarettes most of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so early '90s, health issues. He quits smoking cigarettes, and in '94, end of '94, I buy him a couple of cigars for his birthday. We have
Yep.
a little party, and he smokes those cigars, and he absolutely falls in love with them. He tells me, "Hey, where'd you get these? Can you buy a box?" I was like, and here I am, 17 years old, 18 years old, straight out of high school, and I say, "Hey, Dad, those are like $20 a stick. it's $500 for the box. And, wide-eyed, he says, "Are you kidding me? $500 for 25 cigars?" I say, "Yep." And he says, "Okay." At the time, he's doing rope chain jewelry here in the States and also has a jewelry factory in Dominican Republic. So
Wow.
his brother was running the operation in Dominican Republic. He calls his brother up. He says, "I'm sending you a box of some Connecticut cigars. Find a manufacturer who's making something similar." Sends the cigars. We find a manufacturer. My dad orders 10,000 cigars and says, "Hey, if we can't sell one, I'll have cigars for the rest of my life." So that's how Española and JM Tobacco was started, late 94, early 1995. So 95, we kind of experimented with a few blends, eventually settled on a nice Connecticut creamy smooth blend, which was released early 1996. So that's how we got our start. Our original cigar is the Española 1996 Connecticut blend.
It's funny as you were telling this story, talking about 1994, being in the jewelry business, then you get into making cigars. It sounds awfully familiar to me. Now you probably know this. I don't know. And I'm curious to see how many others out there know this. But same year, 1994, was the first year, not as the name that it's known now, but it was the first year that another cigar maker started making cigars and got into the business, who also was in jewelry before that. And that was Lito Gomez of La Flor Dominicana, who originally started the company as Los Libertadores, and then it became La Flor Dominicana later on. But it was in 1994. He had a jewelry store in Miami, I believe. Not quite the same jewelry background as you guys, but he had a jewelry store in Miami, I believe, is where it was. And I know that they had a robbery, and I think it was a pretty big one. Then I believe it was after that when he kind of switched gears and went into the cigar business. But it's funny because that's a great story. And I remember being like, "Oh, what are the odds at the same time that there's two people making jewelry and they go, you know what, I'm gonna start doing cigars."
Yeah, well, cigars were hot in '94.
Well, of course, I mean, cigar aficionado, which Carlito's here with us, and someone who definitely was there back then. Already well deep into the business. Can tell you firsthand. Yeah, I mean, the '90s, especially the early '90s, Cigar Aficionado comes onto the scene, which is kind of like the real first cigar publication, and always features celebrities on the cover smoking cigars.
That's right.
Was really what started the interest in cigars and created the original cigar boom in the '90s. So yeah, I mean, back then, yeah, you're right. I mean, that was the time. So, of course, I mean,
we
it
got
makes
to
a lot of
thank
sense.
Marvin. Buying JFK's humidor for like 575,000, and that made headlines everywhere. So that also brought some popularity to the
Sure.
industry. So yeah, definitely need to give a shout out.
Yeah, he's been around a long time. And is Carlito there? Of course, Lito. And he would know. He would know. He was there. Not that I'm calling you old.
Cheers, Carlito.
Not that I'm calling you old. I mean, you did just turn 70, but you look good. You look good for your age. But yeah, no, it's it is. It was an interesting time, and it really did set the foundation work for where we are today. I mean, the cigar industry has definitely changed a lot since then, but I don't think it would be as big as it is now if it wasn't for the boom in the '90s. So, and it's interesting because you guys have been around that long. You've been making cigars, and I feel like there's a lot of people who've yet to discover you guys, and I think that it's amazing that you're here, and to see you working on some of these projects. You're doing the Year of the Dragon, which I'm smoking, and so far this is great. Really getting it out there, and you guys are doing a great job. Like I said, I know my team's met with you guys at the show before, and they've definitely talked about you guys, and we've covered your stuff before, and you guys are doing doing some cool things. I see you guys doing some great things in the future too. So I'm like I said, I'm excited that you're here.
Thank you, Matt.
Now, in terms of the Hispaniola. Now this,
Yes.
I remember. So you were saying, sorry, I may have you refresh too. So in the on the Hispaniola, it was your Connecticut that you introduced first. Could you just say that part again?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the Connecticut line was our first line. Um, that was a blend created, after Abo Uvezian and Abo cigars. As you know, Armenian background, same as my father. He's also from Armenian descent.
Yes.
So we really looked up to Abo, looked up to his cigars, smoked it often, and kind of really mimicked what they were doing at the time with the coffin style boxes,
Yeah.
25 in a box, and clean, smooth, creamy cigars. Um, so yeah, that's what we started with in the mid 90s, 96. We had our first trade show in Cincinnati. At that time, it was called RTDA. And
Mm-hmm.
if you've been around for so long, you guys know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
RTDA eventually became IPCPR, and then as we know, PCA now.
Right.
So a lot of the people, I remember that trade show, and I think it was a lot of the big name guys really started around that time. I know for a fact Rocky Patel was there in the beginning in 1996, and also Drew Estate started around that time as well. I think that was their first trade show. So it was a big year for the cigar industry. That year, a lot of people came, a lot of people have gone, but the ones that really survived kind of really innovated, kind of pivoted because after the boom, we had a little bust, and then cigars were here to stay for the next 20, 25 years.
Right.
So yeah, from a product that was kind of smoked by your grandpa, you had younger adults, men smoking these cigars, and you had now women entering the cigar scene and smoking cigars. So it really gained some popularity. A lot of people came into the business in 96, 97, and then market gets flooded with cigars, and then we're hit with kind of the bust. And when I say bust, it's a term where it's like, oh, the cigar industry went south. No, I mean we had 100 million imports early into the 90s, and then you have over 400 million imports by 1997. So the industry was doing great. It was just the quality of the product kind of was deteriorating. People were rushing to put it out into the market. So you had tobacco that wasn't ready to be rolled into cigars. You had a shortage of cigar makers, cigar rollers. So you had newbies rolling cigars, and you had dead spots in the cigars, and you had construction issues. So a lot of those factors played into the bust, and that actually, the bust gave birth to our JM's Dominican line, which is our value priced line, which has been doing phenomenal for us for the last 24 years now. That was introduced in the year 2000. And that came to be because, we couldn't really compete with the people dumping cigars at under $1 a piece at the time.
Right.
You know, people came into the market, started making cigars, hundreds of thousands of cigars, and then they couldn't sell, and they were forced to, make 25, 30 cents on the dollar and dump their product. So what we did was we were sitting on a bunch of tobacco, and we ended up coming up with a Cuban sandwich cigar called JM's Dominican, and that was in a box of 50, and it was kind of similar to a bundled cigar, but with a box and a band.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I
that's
mean,
how. Yeah,
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Um, that I was just gonna say, yeah. I mean, it was just something that I think is really common now. But yeah, I mean, back then, kind of a smart move. It paid off for you too. Which
for
helps.
sure.
And back then, you talk about some of the issues that a lot of other people had, and we've had other manufacturers on the show, who've been around, for from the boom or before the boom, who were there, and like Rocky Patel and Carlito's been on the show, and Lito
Yep.
Gomez, and
Yep.
guys who were there, like we talked about, and it's funny, a lot of people have talked about how, like, yeah, like there were people who basically were like, oh, the cigars, like, this is the hot new thing, let's just get in it and make it, assuming it was like, other products where it's like, all right, if we can just make the product and get it out, cool beans. But there was a misunderstanding of what tobacco really is and how it works, and there are steps you must take with it. And I think that, yeah, I wasn't there, obviously. I was a small child during the time, but I've heard enough about it to know that, yeah, I mean, that's why I think you have a lot of those brands that kind of made it through and were able to become so big and successful today, because I think that they followed, and even like yourselves with you're just talking about how that's been such a hit for you guys for 24 years now. Well, you guys did it right, and you're able to put a product on the market that worked for you. It worked for the consumer. It was attractive price wise. It was a good cigar for the price and all those things. And that's how you build a brand. It's not always the flashy limiteds or the high end stuff. It's the core line products, or the products that most people can access, that it burns right, it tastes right, it does what it's supposed to do. And if you rush that process, you're not doing yourself any favors. I mean, it's such a disservice. And
Definitely.
unfortunately, you've been around long enough, and you know that sometimes people still try to do that today. I don't think it's as common as it was back then, for obvious reasons, but it does happen from time to time. And as you know, and I'm sure you say, it's listen, tobacco is it's a very careful process, and you can't rush it. You can't rush it. So,
No.
but yeah, no,
No. Yeah. Definitely. From seed
um,
to cigar, it's going to take you 5 to 6 years if you're patient,
it's an
and that's
investment.
how you can absolutely. And those are the best cigars. Those are the ones that have character in their flavor, in the profile, and you really can't rush that.
No, no, you can't. And it's funny. We talked to a lot of people, and you ask them like, oh, so like they have a new cigar coming out, and we're talking about it, and we're doing the book tour, right? And it's like, oh, so like when did you guys come up with this idea? And some people, it was for people who don't grow their own tobacco, whatever. It's a couple years ago, or maybe last year. We were talking, but you get the brands that, especially they grow tobacco and stuff, and they're like, oh, we started working on this 10 years ago. We started growing different stuff, and then fermenting it and aging it, and then playing with it, and you hear what some people, the time that some people spend on these products, and you're just like, wow. But at the same
That's
time,
right.
it's true. And people, especially when you go, like you said, from the seed. I mean, that seed. I mean, that process could start, anytime, and take as long as forever. I mean, like the Perdomos just put out a cigar that they started growing their 30th anniversary, and they started growing that tobacco back in 2008. And
Mhm.
that's when they started that. So, um, definitely the patience that you need to have. I think, and I was gonna say what's kind of like the big thing, but it sounds like what a lot of other people have said too is it's the patience. It's the time that you need to wait
Absolutely.
when making a cigar. Now let's talk about you. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Uh, I'll be 47 this year.
Shut up. Really? You don't look 47. You look good.
Yeah.
Good for you, dude. Whatever
Yeah.
you're doing,
Thank you,
keep
sir.
doing it.
Thank you, sir.
I like to say
Cheers.
that so far I've aged better as I get older. Like some people age better and some people don't. So far I've aged better. I'm wondering when I hit that threshold when it starts to go back the other way and I just look like shit again. Um,
You look great.
Thank you. So what I mean is was the cigar thing like always something you wanted to do? It would was it kind of like where at what point were you like yeah, like I love this too, like I'm just gonna go for
Yeah.
it? Because I mean there was a time when you were younger and you probably could have just done something else. I mean
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely right. Like I said, my dad's an entrepreneur. He sees an opportunity, he strikes. He's one of those guys that, dives headfirst into the pool and then asks how deep it is later. Some hit, some miss. Obviously, this was a hit. So yeah, for me, 17 years old, out of high school, in 1995 was my first trip to the Dominican Republic, and I visited my uncle out there who has the jewelry factory, and he takes me on the factory tour, the plantations, we go see tobacco, the curing process, all of it. And I was like, just absolutely overwhelmed, but also intrigued. I mean, this was an eye opening experience. I remember getting picked up from the airport, pulling over, grabbing a bottle of Presidente, and driving to a factory. And I was like, okay, I can get used to this. So
This is life.
this is life. But yeah, it was definitely not something that I was, thinking in high school that I'm going to be in the cigar business, especially for this long. I thought it would be like some kind of fad where my dad's kind of doing this thing. I'll help him out, sure. But yeah, I was straight out of high school and going to school, coming back, going to school, coming back to work, and kind of implementing what I learned at the time. I graduated USC in 2002 with a marketing degree. So took some time off, full time in the cigars, and then during the bust, I said, okay, I need to go back to school and kind of like really, get my education. Um, so yeah, that's what I did, and marketing at SC really kind of helped me out tremendously because I was going to school with product in mind. Um, so I did that, finished 2002, worked full time after, and became the president of the company in 2006. My dad was still here operating. He kind of taking care of the factory, flying back and forth, and I was taking care of the sales here in the States. Um, so yeah, my dad, he really, he without him in the beginning, there is no business. I mean, he literally flew out to Connecticut to secure tobacco. He eventually parceled some land and leased some land and started growing his own tobacco. Learning curve was very difficult in the beginning, and eventually now, he's almost a master grower. I think we have space in Tuxtla, San Andreas, Mexico. He's there often. Um, and so, with that knowledge of the tobacco leaf, we brought back into the market Española. Because really, the Española kind of took a back seat for years and years and years. We were doing our JM's Dominican, millions of cigars a year, and we were at this point where we're like, this is great. We're in the volume business. Yeah, we're not making the big premium dollars that these other manufacturers were making, but we're comfortable. We're doing great. Um, so in 2016, which was our 20th year in the business, we really decided on bringing Española back. Now, at that time, I really couldn't really do the anniversario of the Española because it really wasn't on the market much. So we just kind of did a re-release of the product, and it did fairly well. Uh, and so we brought back the core line of the Connecticut's and added the Maduro. Um, the Maduro for us was a game changer. I think the Maduro was uh, at that time my favorite blend. Um, Now it's the Year of the Dragon blend, which we're going to be bringing to our core line next year at PCA, like I mentioned. But yeah, the Española Maduro really put us back on the map in 2016.
Yeah. It's been interesting to to kind of watch you guys kind of roll that back out. And it's funny, in the last few weeks I've been talking to people, and always kind of all over the place with everything we do here. And I start hearing from people like, oh yeah, Espanola JM, like, oh yeah, like I really like this, I like that. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah. And like, um And like, oh, they're coming on the show, and I see some people here, tuning in, commenting along, and Danny's awesome. Huge support of the show. I truly enjoy the Espanola 1996 Maduro. It is incredibly smooth with tons of character. I mean, and I know Danny, he smokes a lot of cigars. So
Thank you, Danny.
to have that in his rotation, I mean, that's awesome to see. Um, cigar prop, Kevin Shahan. What's up, Kevin? Kevin
There
said
he
that
is.
that dragon is fire. That's right.
Thank
Um,
you, Kevin.
so I mean, look, I mean, you got tons of love here. And and as I'm smoking more of this dragon, this is a really great blend. I'm with Kevin on that. Um, so far, this is a great blend. I really enjoy the flavor profile. It's not quite as mouthful as I anticipated. It's nice. It's nice. I feel like you really can enjoy all of the flavors in it. It's not overpowering. Like I said, at first it was kind of like, whoa, what's this? This
Mm.
is a lot of flash out of the gate, but it quickly cooled down. And now it's really nice. You can really taste that wrapper. Just I'm really digging this cigar. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really
Thank you,
digging
man.
this cigar. It's very very delicious. And the other thing too, I'll add to it. We always talk about, oh, how does it taste? That's really half of it. I mean, let's talk about, first of all, the construction. The draw is fantastic. It's not too loose. It's not too tight. Too loose, they burn too fast. Too tight, obviously nobody likes a tight draw. This is right in the middle. The burn on it has been pretty even, pretty nice. I have ashed a few times already, but it's pretty even. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's burning nice. It's performing well. The flavor is there. It has some characteristic to it. It's very very well rounded. It's a very very solid cigar. Remind me, what is the
Thank
MSRP
you.
on this cigar?
That MSR $12.50 to $13.
Yeah,
Not extremely expensive.
that's a great price point. That's a great price point. I mean, this
Thank you.
this this is a great cigar for that price.
Thank
And to make this part of your core line next year, I think this is going to be a huge success for you.
you. I
Kind of
appreciate that.
based on what I've seen. So, yeah, no, really. I mean, it's exciting, and you're playing with bringing the 60 ring and with some bigger sizes, which I think is important because there's definitely a lot of people who are into um, larger sizes these days. It's crazy that the size thing is, I feel like, really changed the last few years. I don't know, from your standpoint, you know, I don't know how, like, when it comes to the average consumer, right? Do you
Mhm.
what is it that you guys have noticed? Maybe not just what you have now, maybe your other things you're working on. Looking at trends with consumers. I mean, sizes I feel like have been just all over the place the last couple of years, just even more so. And everyone's coming out with odd sizes, a lot of figurados, bigger sizes, smaller sizes. They're kind of like really ranging. What's your take on that as a manufacturer?
So yeah, we really like to stick with the traditional sizes. From a Corona 42 by 5.5 to Robustos 5 by 50, 6 by 50 Toros. Um, but I will tell you that our number one seller in the JM's Dominican line is our Churchill size. That's a 6 3/4 by 50. Um, I believe that's our best seller just because it's the most bang for your buck. I mean, it's a handmade Cuban sandwich cigar that retails for under $5. And for a Churchill size, that's a lot of tobacco for $5. And I think it's the most bang for your buck, and that's why our Churchill size on the JM's Dominicans have been our best. Traditionally, the Toro size is our number one seller just overall between our Españolas and JMs, but mostly the Españolas. The Toro is our number one size. That's why we decided to go with the 6 by 52 Toro size for the Dragon. Only making one size, 500 boxes. Um, but yeah, we really like to stick to the traditional sizes. We don't have a 7 by 70. Our biggest cigar is a Gordo Grande, which is 6 3/4 by 60. It's a big cigar
Right.
in the JM's Dominican. But yeah, we really like to stick to the traditional sizes.
So one thing I noticed about you guys as a whole is you're very traditional. Um, with kind of everything that you have going on, everything you do, your products, just kind of everything about you, which I do like. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's all sorts of color, shape, sizes, flavors, and tastes in this industry. In terms of brands and products and stuff like that. And they're all great, right? Um, there's companies that they're bigger, they're flashier. There's companies that are a little more micro and boutique, but like do a lot of oddities. Um, but I see a brand like yours come around, and you guys are just kind of like, we're very traditional, we're very classic. We kind of do things the original way. It's also refreshing too, because it's nice to see that there's companies out there that they kind of stick to kind of what the original romance of cigars was, especially back in the boom, right? Even before that. It's nice. It's just it's not crazy over the top with the packaging. It's not we make hundreds of different blends in 47 different sizes. Not that I'm knocking on those two, because believe me, there's a lot of those things I love and enjoy, and those companies are great people. But
Yeah.
that's what I mean. There's room for all of it. Like that stuff's great, and that guy's great. But even like just the companies like you guys, kind of like keep it basic, and you stick to the original script. That's also refreshing too, especially in a world where today there's so many limited editions and stuff like that. To see a company that just you kind of just we stick to what we know, and it works for you. You've been successful. Obviously,
Yeah.
the lights are still on. That's very admirable too. So,
Thank you.
um,
Yeah, for sure. This is all thanks to my dad. He's the type of guy that's not flashy at all. He lets the product kind of talk, for itself. And we really had just organic sales, and blessed in the sense that we had a huge following, and that's why you really haven't seen much of us out there. We don't really like to be in front of the camera much. We really don't like to kind of quote unquote show off. But a lot of it we realized is about our story, which is a family business, father son, who kind of just started off a whim, and it's a nice origin story, like you said, and also a very a successful one at it. So I think sticking to our guns, sticking to what we know, letting the product speak for itself has really paid dividends for us.
yeah, I agree. I think it has. And now you're kind of in a position where if you want to start kind of, expanding a little more, maybe not going crazy, but if you want to kind of stretch a little bit more outside your box, you can very comfortably do so and really do some interesting things. So I'm excited to see what you guys, end up doing over the next couple of years. Because I think,
We do have some fun stuff, Matt.
you got some stuff, some
Yeah,
good stuff in the pipeline. Yeah.
for
Um,
sure, for
and
sure.
definitely not
Yeah,
surprised, and definitely excited to see that, because I'm curious to see what you guys, knowing you now, is kind of what you're all about. Will do with things to come. That'd be really cool. Let me
yeah.
um, let me
Thank you.
let me give you a break here for a second. I'm gonna bring our news segment up, and then I'll come back to you. Um,
You got it.
our news is once again brought to you. Oh, sorry, hold on one second. My I clicked the wrong thing. That was on me. I'm sorry. There we go. Our news is once again brought to you by Micallef Cigars. That is right. If you head over to SmokinTabacco.com today, you'll find reviews, including reviews on the Micallef Black by Kevin Acuff, rated 91, SmokinTabacco.com, and now featuring the new Micallef Blue, which hit the market this year. Definitely go check those out. Head over to MicallefCigars.com for more information and to find your local retailer. If no one near you has it, you can also always go to, this is where we double up on the ads, you can go to the number 2guyscigars.com. They carry Micallef cigars, and I believe they carry most of the collection. So you can find them all on there. Micallef Black, it's a blackout. It's kind of popped up out of nowhere. The news this week, is Luciano Cigars introduces a new size for underrated cigars, 6x60. What were we just talking about? Summer Breeze. Following the success of the underrated cigar line, Luciano Cigars announced this week the launch of a new size, Summer Breeze, a Gordo 6x60. The Summer Breeze encapsulates the full expression of the underrated blend, delivering an intense and sweet smoking experience that is both bold and balanced. The Gordo 6x60 size, with its larger ring gauge, allows for a cooler smoke and a more pronounced flavor profile, making it a must-try for seasoned cigar enthusiasts. Constructed with the same meticulous care and premium leaves that define the underrated line, Summer Breeze features the unique blend of Connecticut broadleaf and Ecuadorian HVA fillers, traditionally used as wrappers, along with Pueblo Nuevo Medio Tempo, encased in a dark Mexican San Andreas wrapper. This cigar offers a dynamic flavor that is both candied and rich. Ask your local retailer for more information on this cigar, and if they don't carry it, ask them to bring it in. It's the only way you can get new cigars at your local cigar lounge, guys. Just as a reminder, if they don't have what you're looking for, ask them to bring it in, and maybe they will. If you speak up enough, sometimes they do. That's the only way they can expand their portfolio. That is our news this week, brought to you by Micallef Cigars. Alrighty. Thanks for hanging in there as we do the news once again.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the things I was going to say kind of earlier, you're talking about, so you'd still, your dad starts this business, you get introduced to it at a very, very young age. You're instantly drawn to it, which is, I feel like a common theme with a lot of the family businesses, and I think it's one of those things, especially when you're exposed to it at a young age and, you have a family business. I think for most people, it's, I think a lot of people assume like, well, it's an obligation because it's a family business. Like I have to be involved. And I think that's definitely never the case. Most people I speak to, it's like, I'd love my kids to take over. If not, like if they want to do their own thing, most people, that's usually the story, right? And what's interesting about the cigar business is, everyone comes from all different walks of life, but it's kind of the same thing. It's this a lot of family generational companies out there, and you guys are obviously no exception to that. I mean, you're it rubs off on you. But one thing I will say is it's nice to see though that despite all that, and especially today, there's a lot of the next generation with a lot of these cigar makers. A lot of families, I'm sure too. That younger generation, that's now coming up. A lot of people I've seen, have gone to school, still gotten a degree, which I think is great, and it's nice to have you have a marketing degree, and now you're running a company. So I mean, obviously that comes in handy. But at the same time, they also still chose to get into the business and learn the business and learn the tobacco of it, and it's nice to see people, having that nice education and having that they can use in business. And then, also learning the family business and learning tobacco. It seems like a lot. I'll be honest with you, from the outside, it's a lot. It's a lot to learn. You're doing, business schooling, and then you're going and you're learning about growing, and you're growing about rolling and aging. And then you're learning all the different departments of the business. It's, it seems overwhelming to me. But and it from the outside it seems easy, but I know a lot of time went into that, and I'm sure it's not always easy, but
Oh, definitely not.
but no,
Yes.
but it's awesome to see that too.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, definitely not easy, Matt. Also, the father-son dynamic is difficult sometimes, where I
Sure.
have an idea in mind. I want to do some innovative things, and my dad is like, no, we got to do this, and we're doing it this way. It's his baby, and I'm just raising it at this point. Yeah. So
Well, that was going to be actually my next
I
question. Do you find it,
yeah.
most of this business is father-son. I mean, there's a lot of women getting into cigar business and cigar lifestyle now with consumer level. But majority of the business is a father-son kind of dynamic. And, most people, it's not, I guess not always funny, but we can laugh about it, I guess, when you come on a show. But yeah, that father-son dynamic, it can be difficult. And, trying to plant your own seeds and sow your own oats and improve yourself, I guess, if you will, to your dad
Sure.
and to your family business, is to get discouraging at times when you got all these ideas, you got all this energy and this momentum, and you're just like, I know, I want to do this. And it's like, no, And you just when you think you get all this enthusiasm, you get kind of pushed back down, and you're like, oh, that wasn't good enough. It has to be discouraging at times too, and but people keep going. Did you find it challenging at times to like want to stay in the family business, or was it just kind of one of those where you're like, you know what, he knows what he's doing. I'll just listen to him, and that's it.
No, definitely challenging, Matt. For sure. We went through some rough times. We stuck to our guns. Yeah, I mean, even with the Year of the Dragon, the introduction, this is our first limited edition cigar. We haven't done one ever. So
Right.
there was a big pushback. He said, no, just improve on the Espanola core line. And I said, this is going to help the core line, So there was a lot of convincing involved with the Year of the Dragon release. But I think overall, I think he's really happy with the success that it has had, and that makes me happy is because I brought something to the table, and I'm here almost 47 years old, still trying to prove myself to my dad. He's very much still involved in the business. Like I said, he travels often to the factory. He travels often to the fields with a great knowledge of tobacco. So, I respect him a lot. I'm just happy that I was able to, fulfill my duties for the past almost 30 years and bring a lot to the table as well. Um, so yeah, proving myself is a big thing. Making him happy is a big thing. The dynamic has been, rough, up and down, up and down. But obviously it's worked for the last 30 years.
Now, what would you say? Um, what was that moment you had? Because at this point, I'm sure it's come and gone. But what was that moment where you did something where you finally felt like, oh, like I brought something to the table. My dad liked it. It was successful, and I'm gonna make it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be okay. Like I'm gonna survive doing this. I'm not wasting my time. Like, what was that moment when you were like, all right, like I did, like I kind of like broke that barrier, to so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. So Nicaraguan tobacco in 2010 to 2015 started becoming really, really popular.
Hmm.
And so we kind of had a line extension to the JM's Dominican called JM's Nicaraguan. I said, hey, Dad, we need to blend a cigar with some Nicaraguan tobacco in it because it's popular right now. I see a lot of cigars like the San Latano. AJ Fernandez at the time was really, really popular.
Hmm.
And I said, we got to do something. He said, no, let's just do the JM's Dominican. Adding another line, it's going to be too much. People are going to get confused. I really pushed back and I said, no, let's go ahead and do it. Especially with the Churchill size, I think it'll have success. And it did. And from there, a bunch of line extensions, adding a sealed in humidity pack to our JM's Dominican line, um, a sampler pack, and eventually with the re-release of the Española in 2016, those are all kind of like my ideas that I was like, we need to take advantage of our factory. We have the rollers, we have the tobacco. Let's come up with a premium cigar because that's where it is. Yes, we can do volume for so long, but we also need to have our super premium. We need to have our bundle line and something right in the middle. So kind of like a whole spectrum of items or products to offer retailers. Because we don't like to say no. So if they ask us, hey, do you have a bundled cigar? We say yes. Do you have a price point cigar? We do. Do you have a premium cigar? Yes. Do you have a limited edition? Now we do. And then like you said earlier, kind of forecasting the future. Um, at this point, we are starting to play with our 2026 anniversario. Espanola is going to be 30 years in 2026. So we're really looking forward to an Espanola anniversario line and kind of dabbling with blends right now as we speak.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a big one too. I mean, 30 years. I mean, 20 and 25. I mean, those are obviously big ones too. 30, it really starts getting up to like, wow, okay, three decades. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
a lot happens in that time, and then you start. Then after that, you're like, well, after you then if, you hit 30, it's like you're looking at 40, 50. Um, I mean, and but no, but that you're just kind of like wow, like we made it this far, and now we're closer to like some really major milestones. And you think about like 50 years and having a business. I mean, half a century. That's no easy feat. So um,
Yeah,
for sure to do a project like that, got to be really special. And I'm sure you guys are going to put a lot of time into it. And that was
yeah,
kind
for
of it
sure.
kind of answers my next question was like where do you
Yeah,
see the brand going over the next 5-10 years? Um, part of that obviously you have some projects going on, but I'm sure there's some other things too outside of the actual products that you guys want to do, and I'm sure you have all these
yeah,
ideas that you are trying to execute too. So.
for sure. Yeah, and another project that kind of we're really excited about is we're kind of partnering up with Cigar Brothers and their personal humidors.
Oh
We're
yeah,
putting those
yeah,
guys are great. Shout out to Ramon. He's my guy in San Diego.
yeah.
He's my age, innovative, full of energy. So I really like working with him. We're going to be at the Rocky Mountain Cigar Festival selling uh, Cigar Brothers humidors with Españolas inside. So really excited about that. And just keeping it alive, keeping it relevant, and putting a lot of like energy into the product right now. Um, I'm really excited about the future.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So Cigar Bros, we reviewed some of their humidors last year, and I think they scored pretty well too. I don't remember. I think Mitchell did it. But yeah, I've seen them at the show, and yeah, they're really cool. It's something different, and I think that's
Yeah,
what's cool about it too. It's something different. It makes sense to me. I definitely see a market for it. I see a consumer for it. Um, it's something different than your traditional boxed humidor that you find on a desk. It's and honestly, um, and it's cool to see them partner with someone and sell with cigars. So how many cigars will come inside of it? Is it getting a come full? Is it like a smaller version that's like just for like 25 cigars? Like what's kind of the I don't know if you
yeah,
guys are talking about fine details yet, but
for sure. Yeah, they recently released smaller versions, so they have a 20 size, 40 size. I don't know. I think you've seen the big ones
yeah,
that can hold up to 50, 60 cigars. So we have the 20 cigars that we're going to be promoting at the Rocky Mountain Cigar Festival. And that's a nice size. For the bigger ones, the 40, we put two bundles of our JM's Dominican line, a Sumatra and a Maduro in there. And they sell it with a nice JM's and a Cigar Brothers wrap. Their colors are similar to ours and similar to yours, yellow and black, or
yep.
black and gold, let's say. Um, and that really pops in the humidor, instead of like traditional wood boxes, the yellow really sticks out in the humidor for us. So excited to partner up with them. Like I said, they're great people, bring a lot of energy and enthusiasm into the business, and they're very innovative as well.
Yeah, yeah. Those are some cool people over there, and I think they're gonna do some great things. So, it's cool. That's really cool. I'll have to check that out. I really will. That's cool. It's nice to see you guys doing that.
Yeah,
My
thank
last
you.
question for you was, um, I remember before the show you mentioned you have some teenagers at home. Um,
I do.
do they currently show any interest to aspire to join the family business? They want nothing to do it. Kind of like what's the next generation like for you guys?
So touchy subject, because of the dynamic between my father and I. When we get together, it's Saturdays, Sundays, we're smoking cigars, we're talking tobacco. There's very little room of like, you know, family and like uh, topics outside of tobacco. So I kind of like, I was just like, I would always wonder if my dad did not start this business where my life would be. And I kind of don't want to do that to my son. I don't want to pave the road for him. I want to know what the future holds for him without laying it out. Um, so, obviously, I would I would like to see him take it to the next level. Um, but if that's not his calling, then it's not his calling. So I don't talk about it. I don't push it.
Sure.
I really enjoy my kids. My father would go to work 7 a.m. growing up. He would go to work 7 a.m., come back 7 p.m. We'd have dinner an hour, hour and a half, and I'd go to bed at 9 p.m., when I was 10, 11, 12. So I didn't see my dad. He was just working, working, working. He loves working. And I didn't want to be that way. So, and that's kind of the reason why our name is not out there. I didn't do the traveling. I didn't do the interviews. I didn't go see customers as much as I needed to. That's because I loved my home time and I really enjoyed raising my kids because those years you can never get back. And I really wanted to be present. So, having said that, I don't know if the dynamic between father son, although me and my son's relationship is amazing, I don't know if I would want that for him.
That's very respectable. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of the story. I think a lot of people go with, and I think it should be up to them too. And if he said, hey, you know what, um, a couple more years, maybe he's not really thinking about it. Maybe he doesn't really have any interest. Kids they leave high school and then they go to college and they see the world and they kind of figure some things out, and then maybe he comes around and says, you know what, yeah, this is where I belong, and that's fine,
Yeah.
and but if he doesn't, you're right, and no one should ever feel that obligation, right? No one should feel that like, well, this is what I'm like. It's kind of like the kind of like way back in the day, you had like like the coal miners and like this is kind of these other people like you're gonna go up, you're gonna work in the mines, and you're gonna do this. Where fathers would like tell their kids like this is what you're gonna do because this is what I do, and this is like what the family
Yeah.
does, like and feeling like, well, my story's already been written for me. But of
Mm.
course, if they want to write that story themselves, then obviously that's awesome too. But yeah, and I was curious. I always like to hear the answer to that question because the answer is somewhat similar, but also at the same time can be very different too. So thank you for sharing that with me too. I appreciate that.
Of course. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely, man.
you've been very personable. I like you really opened up, and I appreciate that. And it's been really nice hanging out with you and having a cigar. But we are getting towards the end of our show,
Thank you.
so unfortunately we have to wrap up soon. So first of all, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for your
I
time.
thank
Thank
you.
you, thank you for everything. You've been so great. Um, it's been awesome talking with you and getting to know you guys a little bit better. I learned a lot, and I really love your story. And I think you guys have a great company, a great brand, and yeah, you're doing some really interesting things. And I wish you guys nothing but the best in the future. And I'm excited to see
Thank
what
you,
the
man.
future brings
I
for you.
appreciate
So
you.
thank you,
Thanks for
thank
having
you.
me on.
Anytime, anytime you want to come back, you're always welcome.
Thank you.
But that is going to be our show for this week. So thank you everyone for watching along with us live. And if you're listening later, thank you for listening. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe everywhere you can find our episodes, YouTube and on all of the podcast apps. And don't forget to go to smokintabacco.com for more news, reviews, and other updates from the cigar industry. I'm Matt Tobacco saying good night. Take care. We'll see you next week.